You're listening to the Snob OS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
And yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
And welcome to the Snob OS show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of the Snob OS show. We want to thank you for your continued support and checking us out each week. All right, on this week's show, we're going to talk about some iPhone Fold, eye roll, insert eye roll here issues, App Store woes. There's a new satellite owner who that provides the satellites for Apple's SOS system. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about Chrome extensions being infiltrated and not in a good way. Also, in For the Culture, we're going to talk about the upcoming Michael Jackson movie, and we're going to round it out with the tech tip of the week. All right, you can listen and watch. You can also rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. So be sure to do that. Also, if you want to get some additional perks, you can head on over to patreon.com/snoboscast to find out how you can watch the show live and get some exclusive content. And with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into this week's show. We're going to kick it off with a lowdown where we talk all things Apple. All right. So last week I was on DTNS and we talked a little bit about this particular topic. And I'm still not sold on it, still not happy about it. But this week when I was prepping for the show, I saw so many articles about the iPhone quote unquote fold. I saw some rumors saying it's going to be called iPhone Ultra. But in any event, there seems to be some limbo around the iPhone Fold. So the alleged first foldable iPhone is running behind schedule with mass production shifting. So the issue seems to be that the production run of the product is shifting from June to August of 2026. And it's due to some manufacturing and engineering validation issues that they're having. So despite this delay, which is almost 2 months-ish, Apple allegedly is still planning to launch this thing in the fall of 2026, likely during the fall event. So I know that you mentioned before that you were interested in a device like this. I, on the other hand, am not looking forward to the device if it's going to be similar to other I call them flip phone devices. But it sounds like they're still really trying to force the delivery of this product this year, even with the reported issues of them being about 2 months behind.
Well, the delay, it depends on who you ask.
Okay.
Bloomberg's Mark Gurman says the iPhone, quote, Fold remains on track to launch around the same time or soon after the iPhone 18 Pro models expected to launch in September of 2026. Mm-hmm. So while the report from Nica Asia says they're behind, Mark Gurman says they're on track. So again, this is a rumored device.
Yep.
So we don't know exactly when it'll come out, if at all. Mm-hmm. But there is, like you mentioned, a lot of buzz about the iPhone Fold. Again, if it looks, I am okay with it being a fold or a flip or whatever the case may be. Only if it looks similar to other fold devices I've seen.
Okay.
I've seen some pictures of people doing renderings of the Apple version of the Fold, and it looks like a fat, thin phone that when you fold it out, it resembles more of a 16:9 display when it's completely folded out.
Okay.
If it looks like that, I do not want it. I want something similar to my phone that's thinner, but when you fold it together, it has the same dimensions, if not a little thicker than my current phone. And it has the same resolution to where, again, when it's unfolded, like just say whatever the phone is, if it doesn't look like a regular phone without it being unfolded, I don't want it. If it looks like something fat and weird looking when it's unfolded, when it's folded, and then when you unfold it, you go, oh, okay, well, that looks a little bit better. I don't want it because most of the time I'm going to use it as a regular phone. There'll be times when I'll use it as, the flipped out version, like if I'm trying to take notes or if I'm trying to read a article or whatever the case may be. I'm doing some long form reading, then I'll flip it out. But most of the time I'm going to be on apps like I do regular. I'm going to use the phone regularly and I want the phone to look like a regular phone. So
yeah. And that's one of the biggest issues that I have with the whole idea of a foldable phone. One is it needs to look like my iPhone when it's folded. It needs to look like this to some extent. Same type of dimensions, same type of look, same type of feel. And the other thing is when it is unfolded, the screen needs to look seamless. And my issue with that is I've seen some other foldable phones where it has that line down the middle, and my, type A, I don't want to say OCD because that is an actual, medical condition, but my tendencies for things to look a certain way and look as such, a line down the middle of it is going to annoy the hell out of me. So that's my thing, is my hope for whatever Apple was going to do in this space is for it to be Apple's way and not to be on the wave of some of the other devices. And so I guess I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope it looks good. I hope it works well. I likely won't be buying it, but I just hope that it looks like an Apple device and it works like an Apple device and not some sort of Frankenstein version of a phone. So that's my whole thing. And I'm just like, I'm not looking forward to it. I think it may actually be it may fit the parameters of one of my predictions of something, but I don't really care. If they're going to do something, I just really want it to be done well. Side note, I've been seeing a lot of stuff as well as I was preparing for the show that Apple is coming out with a competitor for the Meta glasses. They have apparently 4 different mock-ups to kind of compete with that. My thing with that is if you're going to do it the Apple way and not as a direct like one-to-one competition. That's my whole thing with anything on the innovative side. Be Apple, be who I believe you to be, and not, more of a follower in this space. So that's my qualm with the whole iPhone Fold or iPhone Ultra, whatever they're going to call it. So I guess we'll see come September, or maybe even October if the delays still hold up. They may do, one more thing, or they may do a second drop. So time will tell what they come up with. I just hope it's not bad. I really hope it's not bad. All right, next up, we're going to talk a little App Store. So the App Store has had a pretty bad day. So apparently Apple removed this rewards app that went viral on TikTok, I believe, called Free Cash. After reports revealed that it used misleading TikTok ads to promise easy money while collecting large amounts of sensitive user data. The app briefly went to the top of the US App Store charts before being removed again for violating the rules against deceptive marketing and scam behavior. And this, I don't think this is the first time that an app has gotten through the App Store that has these kind of issues. But the biggest issue with this particular free cash app is it's called a data harvesting app, and it collected sensitive data like race, religion, sexual orientation, health data, biometrics. And it had, I think the biggest caveat is it had already been removed from the App Store just last year, but it made its way back into the App Store under a different developer account. So what this whole thing did was acted as kind of like a data broker. And once you installed it, it redirected you to install games like Monopoly Go, Disney Solitaire, and that's how it was monetized. It was monetized by users installing these apps and spending money in these third-party apps. So again, like I said, the App Store removed it again after a TechCrunch inquiry. And like I said before, they said that it violated App Store rules such as scam behavior, misleading marketing, bait and switch tactics. So do you think there needs to be an even more robust review process of the App Store? Previously, Apple has been known to have one of the most strict requirements of getting an app in the App Store. But for something like this to happen, it seems like something may need to change, or some things are kind of slipping through the cracks.
People are always going to try to slip through the cracks. It really doesn't matter what Apple does outside of limiting, putting some very strict authentication behind who is creating these developer accounts and who's using these developer accounts. Apple may have to get to denying or rejecting people's Apple accounts, right? Mm-hmm. But even still, you can go figure out a way to create a new one. So it's going to be up to people who are, I don't want to say suckers, but up to people who frequently use these apps thinking they're going to get something free in exchange for the whatever data that these apps request. It's never going to be an equal exchange. It's always going to be the developer, the app maker, the company taking more than they're giving. Bait and switch is always going to happen to where they tell you, download this app and just swipe through TikTok and you'll get rewards, when in actuality you have to do something else. Mm-hmm. And you got to do something else, and you got to do something else, and then finally you get a little piece of chump change in exchange for giving up all your data, right? Mm-hmm. So it's never going to be an equal exchange. There's always going to be companies trying to pull stuff from us. It's up to us to be like, nah, we are not going to fall for it. But there's a sucker born every minute, so what are you going to do?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, for me, the thing is, it being removed for basically the same thing and then coming back. So, the review process of the app, I guess, how did they miss it, or what was different about the app the second time that they put it through? It couldn't just be that it was under a different developer account. It had to be something else, right?
That's all they say. Apple told TechCrunch the app was removed for violating 2 App Store review guidelines, forbid developers from scamming users, engaging in bait and switch tactics, or marketing their apps in a misleading way. But the Washington Post says the less than legitimate apps had been removed from the App Store and then resubmitted just by a different developer account. So that's all they had to do. So I guess that leads to your question. Was Apple always this strict with their App Store policies? Or are they now being reactionary because their App Store review policies wasn't all that strict and stringent.
Yeah. And I guess that's a question that Apple is going to have to ask, because a lot of people's sensitive data is now in the hands of whoever is behind
Willing
this.
to pay for it.
Yeah. And it just goes to show that when you're downloading these quote unquote free apps, we've lived in this country and in this world long enough to know that free never really means free. It means, what are you willing to give up in exchange for it? So, again, Apple has to get better at reviewing these apps, and consumers have to get better at discerning what's worth your data and your effort and your time and what's not. All right. Last up in the lowdown. So the satellite provider that the iPhone uses was recently bought by Amazon. So Amazon agreed to acquire Globalstar for about $11.5 billion. That's with a B, giving Amazon control of the satellite network, like I said, that currently powers the iPhone satellite feature. So again, this is for emergency SOS, messages via satellite, Find My connectivity on both iPhones and Apple Watches. And I have to say that there was a time when I think Apple was considering using Starlink, SpaceX's Starlink. And it seems as if now that Amazon has bought this provider, that it looks like they may just really be, going full blown with this and not even considering SpaceX's Starlink, because Apple said that, that the existing satellite features that they already have will continue unchanged for current iPhone users. So it doesn't sound like they plan on changing anything, but they meaning Apple and Amazon, agreed to collaborate on future satellite services and possibly adding new satellite capabilities to iPhone. So it looks like Apple has its new satellite provider, and that's who they're going to stick with.
Yep. It says, under the deal, Apple and Amazon made an agreement to maintain satellite connectivity for current and future iPhone and Apple Watch user features. This includes using Globalstar's existing and planned upcoming low Earth orbit satellite constellations. However, more is planned. The deal also mentions Amazon will collaborate with Apple on future satellite services using Amazon Leo's expanded satellite network. So basically, even though Amazon bought Globalstar, what they really did was just bought a partnership with Apple, because Apple had a major stake in Globalstar. I think it's like a 20% stake.
Yep.
So Amazon really wasn't brokering no deal with Globalstar. They was brokering a deal with Apple, because without Apple iPhones and Apple Watches, Globalstar really don't exist.
Yeah.
So really Apple's in the driver's seat with this. So I'm pretty sure my concerns would be, all right, what kind of data is Apple going to share with Amazon? Mm-hmm. That would be my concern. My hope is that Apple is like, look, we can share connectivity information, data, statistics, reports, whatever the case may be. But hopefully Apple closes the gate on Amazon.
Iron wall.
Yeah, let me, Amazon, we need, user specific data. No, hopefully Apple closes that door. If not, then we got another problem, but we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there.
Yep. So it looks like this is what we're rolling with for now. And it'll be interesting to see what new satellite capabilities they add and if they are really useful to users. All right. That is going to wrap up the lowdown. Let's head on into Second String, where we talk all other tech. So I saw this particular thing. It was a bit of a struggle today. I don't know, to find what's going on around the internets, but Chrome. Many of you use Chrome. I mostly use Safari, but there are some apps that just don't work with Safari and you have to use Chrome. Primarily our recording software that we use for this show, it operates only on Chrome. So there are some instances where you have no choice but to use Chrome. So a new report highlighted about 108 malicious browser extensions on Chrome, and they were secretly harvesting identity data and creating security risks for users. Now, the thing is, these extensions appeared harmless. They appear like everyday tools that you just normally use, like YouTube or TikTok helpers, some basic browser utilities, translation tools, games, some other utilities, things like that. So despite these extensions looking legitimate, these researchers found that they were connected to the same control network with roughly 20,000 installs. And this 20,000 installs is at the time of the discovery that these extensions were, doing some slightly nefarious things. So it's one of those things where you think you're using something safe because it looks safe. Similar to kind of what we talked about earlier with the free cash app that Apple removed from the App Store. And so it's one of those things where, I don't know, I guess hypervigilance, I don't know if that's even enough anymore to ensure that, what we're doing on the internet and, thinking you have things in place, thinking you're aware of, these apps and what they do. I guess especially since, you work in mobile device management, like what can people expect, or what can they, I guess, keep an eye out for to be aware of the potential of this? I wouldn't think that people would be that aware, right?
People are somewhat aware, but again, the benefit outweighs the costs in a lot of people's minds. If there is a Chrome web tool that enables me to download YouTube videos, and I'm a content creator and I need to download the videos in order to chop them up or add my 2 cents so I can then post on Instagram and TikTok, for those people, the cost is worth the benefit, right? The benefit is I don't have to screenshot YouTube videos. I don't have to jump through hoops to make sure the video is in the right resolution, size, whatever the case may be. When there's a Chrome web browser extension that enables me to just drop a link into the Chrome web extension. I'm just making this up, but I'm pretty sure something out there like this exists, to where I just drop the link into the Chrome browser extension, automatically download the full video. It takes out the ads, takes out the captions, takes out all the things, so where I just got a straight video. So then now I can use somebody else's video for my own purposes. We see it all the time on social media, and nobody bats an eye, right? That's the benefit. The cost is you could very well be giving up your data to somebody, a data broker, who is then selling your personal identifiable information. Again, the benefit is more than the cost because nobody's been burned. You're only concerned about the cost when you get burned.
When it affects you, yeah.
Right. So what people can do is, one, only use apps that, I would say only use apps you got to pay for. That's what I would say. Unless it's like a banking app, unless it's like an app that it's tied to a system, a service, or whatever, that they actually have to have an app on your phone to use, then those are free, right? But anything outside of those, and you're just perusing the Chrome web store and say, oh, this is a free app that lets you do something, it ain't free. And I would much rather you look for an app that's similar that costs $2 or $3, because the people who are charging, again, this is not an absolute, but they are more willing to go through the extra protocols so you can feel like you got your money's worth. If it's free, they don't care what value you get out of it. All they need you to do is download it. So we got to be careful about the apps we download. And if it's that important to you, pay for it with
That
dollars, not with
so
your data.
you have like a buy into it. It's like,
Yeah. You got skin in the game.
yeah, that's the colloquialism I was looking for. And so with that being said, just for, knowledge, these extensions, it mentioned that 54 of the extensions collected Google account identity data after the user clicked the sign in button. One extension pulled live Telegram web session data every 15 seconds. 45 of those extensions could open malicious URLs automatically when Chrome is launched. That is a huge one. Anytime you launch Chrome, if you have this extension, anytime you launch Chrome, they could open a malicious URL automatically whenever you launched it. Some extensions disabled security protections on websites like YouTube, TikTok, and Telegram. And there was a translation extension that routed user text through external servers. So this gives you a risk of surveillance. These are not ticky-tacky type of, oh, you got my email address, or, oh, you got my full name. These are some serious exploits, some serious violations that could have some pretty catastrophic results. And so I'll say all this to say, in this particular article, they did outline some things that you can do if you have these apps, or just reviewing any extensions that you have on Chrome. Review all the ones that you have installed immediately. Remove anything suspicious. And they say, especially Telegram tools, translation utilities, browser helpers, or lightweight games. And it says, if you used one of those, log out of the Telegram sessions, review your account access for your Google accounts, and revoke any unfamiliar permissions. Because what they do is, if they have access to your Google account, they can add whatever permissions that they like, and you wouldn't even know it. So it's one of those things is, if you are a heavy browser extension Chrome user, go ahead and check what you have. And if it's something that doesn't quite pass a smell test, just be on the safe side and check your permissions and uninstall it, and change your passwords if it's anything that is related to anything that's password sensitive. So it's one of those things where people try all the games, run all the scams, run all the things to get your data. And like I said, hypervigilance is not always the answer, but for now, it's one of the best things that we have that protects you as a consumer. So be aware. All right, heading on into For the Culture. I don't know if you've seen it on the news or on social media, but the new Michael Jackson movie comes out next week. But they're doing all of the premieres this week. So it's kind of like drumming up interest. So it's been like the family members, the mom, Catherine, the brothers, some of the sisters, and their kids. They've all been kind of doing all these red carpets for all the different premieres. It's been fairly entertaining because, again, they are quite eccentric in their wardrobe and in their demeanor. I guess that's the best way to put it. But I've seen some of the trailers and I'm pretty excited about it. I think I'm definitely going to check it out. Have you seen any of this? Any thoughts on whether you're going to go and see this new Michael movie?
I've seen the trailers. It looks good. Mm-hmm. I'll wait. I mean, there's been, I'm not saying blue in the face, but there's been 2 or 3 at least, Michael Jackson not documentaries, movies, series, and it's just like, they call it Rest in Peace for a reason. let this man rest in peace. You know, again, there are diehard Michael Jackson fans.
Absolutely.
And there are people who want to experience what it was all about because maybe they were born after the fact, you know, so they, you know, they are looking back on history and being like, who was this dude and what was going on with him with the Macaulay Culkin and the skin bleaching and the Sony and all the things they've heard it through the grapevine, but never got a chance to experience it for themselves. So maybe this movie will give a better timeline on, you know, his upbringings with the family, you know, then him venturing out on his own, to them him becoming the king of pop, and to all the other things that followed after that, right? So maybe that'll give some people a clear timeline so they can understand, you know, the inside jokes that we've been telling, you know, or just the references, right?
Yeah.
That we've been telling because we grew up in it. And that's another reason I'll hold off on it. I'm not very nostalgic, and we grew up in the age of Michael Jackson. So I was there, you know, so, you know, I really don't necessarily need to, I'm not moved to see it for the purpose of nostalgic reasons, right? But at the same time, if people go see it and they love it and they think it's dope and they say you got to go see it, then I'll probably check it out. You know, I'm just not going to be on the front lines on this one, you know.
For me, it's one of those things where I think his oldest son is either one of the producers or has
I thought he was one of the main characters. I thought one of his kids, one of the nephews is playing.
One of the nephews, but his oldest son is one of the producers, I think.
You're right.
And
right
I think one of the other, the youngest son is involved as well. But I don't think the daughter is. But and I think that's the thing that's the difference for me. Antoine Fuqua, who is a director that I really love his movies. He did Training Day, was one of the big ones.
He's done a whole bunch of stuff.
He's done a bunch of stuff, but Training Day is probably one of my favorites. And his nephew Jafar, who I think is Jermaine's son, is playing the titular role, and like all the buy-in from the family. And then you have Coleman Domingo, who I think is a fantastic actor, who's playing Joe. And then you have Nia Long, who is playing Catherine. I just think, and from the trailers that I've seen, the people who they have playing the real life counterparts, they've cast them really well. And it's one of those things where it looks like it's really done well. And I think for me, that's one of the differences from some of the other movies. Now, I remember I think we all remember the Jackson 5, The American Dream with Angela Bassett and I'm blanking Lawrence. I'm blanking on his name, who played Joe. Not Lawrence Fishburne, but I think the other guy's name was Lawrence as well. I think I'm drawing a blank. In any event, it's so many quotables from that movie. We've all seen all the different parts to it, and you kind of saw from, you know, the beginning up until, you know, when Michael went solo. And I think in this particular movie, they cover specific things because this man lived like this huge life. So it's hard to put all of this in a movie. I think they originally said it was like 3 hours or 4 hours and they had to cut it down. And I heard rumors that there's a second part to it. So it's one of those things where, again, we grew up with this, so I remember this as well. But the way that the credibility behind the movie, the buy-in from the family, and the trailers, it seems like it's going to be really good. Now, the thing is, the tickets went on pre-sale. So, you know, even if I want to try and see it in the theaters, I may not be able to because there may not be any tickets available.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But yeah, so I'm really interested to see, you know, the final product, and you know, people get to really see, you know, especially people who weren't around at that time, get to see how big of a star he was. You think some people are superstars now? None of that, even now, can compare to like the superstardom, the whole aura around this guy when he was alive. So Should be fun. Should be fun. All right, that is going to wrap up for the culture. Let's head on into the hookup for our tech tip of the week.
All right. So if you've been deep into the iPhone settings and you're like 2 and 3 and 4 levels deep looking for a setting and you need to go back a page or 3, instead of just tapping the back button in the upper left hand corner to go back a screen, back a screen, back a screen to where you need to go, my hookup for the week, if you just press and hold the back button, it'll give you a little subtext drop down menu with your I call it browser history, to where it'll show you all of the, not show you, it'll give you like a name of all the different screens that you've advanced through, and at any time you can click one of those screens and it'll take you right to that screen, as opposed to tapping back to get to the screen. So pretty simple hookup. Again, if you go through the iPhone settings and you're 3-4 layers deep, instead of tapping the back button, press and hold it, it'll give you a little context menu with the titles of the different pages, and you can click that specific page to get right back where you want to go.
So kind of like little breadcrumbs.
Yep, exactly.
Nice. And with that, that's going to wrap up the show for this week. Brother Tech, where can the people find you?
Sure, you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva all over the internets as well. And you can find our show at SnobOScast all over the interwebs as well. To comment, to share, to support the show, to get all those types of details, you can also head on over to snobwestcast.com. And with that, we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.